Alex, we need to break up. I can't be with a loser like you.
I'm here to withdraw my money.
Mr. Ambrose, the balance in that account is $86 million.
Everyone, look at this girl. Her name is Debbie Stonehill, and she's the poorest girl in our class.
Alex didn't think twice before jumping into the lake and going after Debbie.
Alex, what are you doing here? You never wanted to spend money on me.
He already has a girlfriend.
Now we will invite all the students who have contributed over $100.
He's the one who donated $130,000. Alex, you said you're as poor as I am. You lied to me?
He knew he needed to find Debbie and apologize to her.
Debbie, where is she?
She really dropped out.
I'm Bruno Franklin.
I'm sorry, sir.
Don't you recognize me?
I'm hopelessly in love with you, Alex.
If you don't start showing me some respect.
I'll be back in a minute.
Alex decided it was time to teach someone a lesson.
Mr. Franklin, I'm sorry about the disturbance, the manager said. As a gesture of goodwill, your meal is on the house. He knew Debbie was a nice girl, and he couldn't let Bruno hurt her. Bah! Bruno punched the manager in the nose. Staggering back, the manager clutched at his nose and bent over. Bright red blood oozed out from between his fingers. You don't have a clue, do you? Bruno said arrogantly, towering over him. He stuck his hands in his pockets. Well, what do you have to say now? Mr. Franklin, Debbie's my employee and I'm responsible for her. The manager choked out. Scowling, Bruno raised his right foot and kicked him right in the head, knocking him to the ground. The manager spat out 2 teeth, and a cut on his head dripped blood down his face. Bruno didn't hold back. He lifted his leg, preparing to stomp on the man's face. No matter how much damage he did, he knew there would be no consequences. Mr. Franklin, I'll do it, the manager said hurriedly, holding up his hands. He didn't have a choice. He couldn't take any more of this beating, not even to protect Debbie. Bruno smiled as he lowered his foot to the floor. Go and get Debbie, the manager ordered a waiter. Tell her she needs to come and wash Mr. Franklin's clothes. The waiter headed toward the kitchen, but a man stepped in front of him, blocking his way. Alex gently pushed past the waiter. Well, if it isn't the crazy guy, Bruno mocked Alex, while his henchmen also started to laugh. Go on, get out of here. He turned back to the waiter. Why are you still here? Bring me the girl. But Alex still stood in front of the waiter, refusing to move. Do you have a damn death wish? Get lost, Bruno said angrily. Alex smiled and walked toward him. As he passed a table, he picked up a bottle of red wine and a glass. He seems to have found his courage, one of his men snickered. Didn't he just flinch when Bruno yelled a moment ago, and now he actually dares to approach him? No, I think he's just found his brains, another man answered. Didn't you see him pick up the wine? He must be about to make amends by toasting Bruno or pouring him a drink. Bruno noticed that Alex didn't seem as angry as before. He thought after Alex gave him the wine, he would hit the kid a couple of times, and then maybe he would take him on as an underling. Might even be useful. As Bruno considered what he was going to do, Alex walked up to him and poured some red wine into the glass, filling it right up to the brim. You're an idiot, Bruno said, reaching out to take the wine. How am I supposed to drink this when it's so full? His hand never made contact with the glass. Alex threw the full glass of red wine into Bruno's face, and it hit him right in the eyes and went up his nose. He splattered and bent down, trying to get rid of it. Ugh! Bruno wiped his face. He couldn't open his eyes properly without them stinging, so he could only squint at Alex. I'm going to kill you! His vision was blurry, so he only saw a black shadow attacking him. Before he could react, he heard a smashing sound and felt a sharp pain across his forehead. More wine flowed over his face. This time, it was mixed with glass fragments. Ugh! Bruno screamed and collapsed on the ground. He touched his hand to his forehead, and it came back completely red. Alex was still holding the broken wine bottle in his hand, while the other pieces of glass were scattered on the floor. Why are you all just standing there? Bruno shouted at his men. Kill him! His men simply looked at him with troubled expressions. not daring to take any action. Alex's unexpected behavior had stunned them all, and they hadn't yet regained their composure. They were all staring at him with respect, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Alex casually threw away the broken bottle, shocking everyone present. Sneering, he walked slowly toward Bruno, who was growing scared. No longer caring about keeping up appearances for his men, the gangster used his elbows to edge backwards, trying to keep his distance. "I'm really curious. How did someone like you end up in charge?" Alex placed his foot on Bruno's face. He looked down at him and coldly said, "If I ever see you again, I'll make sure you regret it." He ruthlessly put more of his weight on the man's face to teach him a lesson. Then he reduced the pressure and took 2 steps back. "Wait, I want to stay and finish eating before I go," Bruno said. Alex turned around and saw Bruno looking at him, his expression respectful. Alex laughed. "You expect me to believe you?" He looked around at everyone's faces and guessed Bruno's intention. He was simply going to hang around and wait for another opportunity to attack Alex. Alex sighed, knowing he couldn't walk away. If he didn't completely defeat Bruno now, then it would cause trouble later. Not only for him, but also for Debbie and this restaurant. "Fine then," Alex thought. "My name is Alex Ambrose," he said, "and I'm just a student at Preston University." He kept his manner relaxed, but allowed a trace of contempt to remain. "But you still need to show me respect." "And here I thought you must be someone important to dare insult me, but you're merely a second-rate student." Bruno hadn't expected Alex to take things so far. If Alex was just a student, then why was he pretending to be someone powerful? "If you don't start showing me some respect, then I won't be able to resist kicking you," Alex said with a faint smile. "Really?" Bruno asked. "However hard you hit me, I'll pay you back with interest, and then you won't be able to walk out of here." His face was covered in blood, and when he smiled, he looked extremely scary. He looked over at his henchman and said, "I'll call Sam Woodsworth right now and ask him to send a few heavy-duty thugs over." Hearing that Bruno knew Sam Woodsworth, the other people in the crowd looked at Alex with a worried expression. "Who? Sam Woodsworth? Who is that?" The name sounded familiar to Alex, but he couldn't quite place it. "Kid, Sam is the boss at the Berkeley Hotel," one of the men said. "He has more power than the police around here." "Maybe you should beg Bruno for mercy," someone suggested. "When Sam's guys arrive, things will get ugly, and there will be no point in calling the police." When he realized who they were talking about, Alex couldn't contain his laughter. "Idiot, aren't you even smart enough to be afraid?" Bruno sneered. "If you dare to come at me, you'll regret it." He pointed to the floor in front of him. "Get down and grovel at my feet. Call me master and beg for my forgiveness 3 times. I've already warned you to be respectful when you speak to me," Alex said as he walked up to him and kicked him in the leg. When Bruno bent over, Alex kicked him in the head. "Ew!" Bruno was dazed, trying to shake off the blow to the head. "That's it. I'm calling Sam. You've done it now." Alex crossed his arms and looked at Bruno as if he were looking forward to watching a good show. When the call connected, Bruno sneered at Alex. "Mr. Woodsworth, I'm Bruno." "No, not him. No, Barry is the car salesman. I'm Bruno, not Barry." "Right. Mr. Woodsworth, do you remember that night a few weeks ago? I was at your place and I was carrying a suitcase." It took a long time, but he finally got Sam to remember him. "Sorry for disturbing you," Bruno said, his tone respectful. "But I have a small problem. I was hoping you could send a couple of your guys to come here to deal with someone." "Who is he?" Bruno was only able to ask for assistance because he recently had given Sam some money. Sam definitely wouldn't help him deal with anyone powerful, but on this occasion, Bruno glanced at Alex and grinned. "Not some big shot or anything. He's just some student at Preston University, Alex Ambrose." Alex had been watching Bruno, and when he heard Bruno reveal his name, he couldn't help but burst out laughing, even though he had known what would happen. "Why are you still laughing?" Bruno demanded. He sneered at Alex as if he were nothing. Just as Bruno took a step closer, a roar came from the phone. "You hit Alex Ambrose?" You idiot! Do you want to die? Bruno's ears were ringing, and his heart skipped a beat. Mr. Woodsworth, what's wrong? What's going on? His mind was in chaos, and his heart began to pound. Alex casually lifted the phone out of Bruno's hand. Bruno looked at Alex in a daze, not knowing what to say. Mr. Woodsworth, don't worry. I'm not hurt, Alex said lightly into the phone. In fact, Bruno here made an excellent suggestion earlier, and I think we should let him try it out. He glanced over at Bruno, who still didn't understand what was going on and was growing nervous. Alex listed Bruno's demands. But I think he should be the one to do those things for me, don't you? Bruno stared at him. Mr. Woodsworth wants to talk to you, Alex said, handing the phone over. Bruno put his phone to his ear. Hello, Mr. Woodsworth? As he listened to what Mr. Woodsworth said, Bruno's heartbeat sped up, and he swallowed hard. By the time he had finished speaking, Bruno felt sick to his stomach. Every part of him trembled, and his legs felt weak. He wanted to kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. Mr. Ambrose, I'm so sorry, he said. I don't deserve to live. I offended you because I'm worthless and stupid. Please have mercy on me.
What is the reason behind Madison's cruel behavior towards Debbie? What secrets is Alex hiding? And how will they impact his relationships?
Not so arrogant now, are you? Alex looked at Bruno like he was a... So I assume Mr. Woodsworth told you what to do, right? So, get started. Yes. Bruno bit his lip so hard that it started bleeding. He straightened up, took a deep breath, and then lowered himself to the floor in front of Alex. Master, he said, I beg your forgiveness. He groveled again and said, Master, please forgive my stupidity. And then, Master, please forgive me. None of the bystanders mocked Bruno. Confused, they watched Alex with a mixture of respect, envy, and admiration. This handsome young man was so powerful. But who was he? And why was such an important man like Mr. Woodsworth so respectful toward him? Alex looked down at the bleeding Bruno with a faint smile. He glanced around at the dirty floor that Bruno, and he felt a little sympathy for him. Still, Bruno had no one to blame but himself. Alex wasn't in the mood to watch him clean. Instead, he returned to the kitchen. Debbie had already changed her clothes, so he took her hand and they left the restaurant. Reunited now, they were happy to be together. They chatted and laughed, and everything seemed to be good again. Alex held Debbie's hand as they strolled along the streets of New York. Noticing how much weight she'd lost recently, a trace of tenderness rose in his heart. Debbie, I won't allow you to suffer anymore. He lifted her hand to his mouth and lightly kissed it. Okay, she replied meekly. Her heart filled with joy, but her stomach picked that moment to rumble loudly. She felt a little anxious about being back. He agreed, and they walked over to her favorite spot by the water. Okay, sit here and wait for me. I'll go get some food and return in a few minutes. He smiled and ran off toward the cafeteria. Wait, she called. I'll go with you. But he had already run off and was too far away to hear her. She shook her head and sat down on the big rock. She looked out at the rippling surface of the lake, and for the first time in days, she managed to relax. Well, if it isn't that little Debbie, came a cold female voice. Debbie shivered. She turned around and saw Madison and her two friends, Linda and Georgia, walking toward her. Alarmed, she quickly stood up. It really is her, Madison said. With disdainful smiles, the girls moved closer. Little, I thought you quit school, so why did you come back? Did you miss us too much? Do you want us to look after you again? Debbie didn't dare provoke Madison. She just wanted to get away as soon as possible. Hey, where do you think you're going? Madison moved to block her path. Is this how you treat your roommate? Without Debbie around, they hadn't had nearly as much fun. Now that she was back, how could they resist toying with her? Madison, do you think she came to find Alex? Georgia asked. When Madison saw Debbie's expression, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. and then her gaze turned vicious. She really is looking for that. When Alex had burst into their dorm, he had insulted Madison, and she wasn't going to forget that. She had originally considered getting someone to beat up Alex when he was off campus, but she hadn't expected him to hide in the dorm for so long and not come out. And she hadn't dared to go into the dorm after him. She smirked as her gaze swept over Debbie, and she realized she could use her to lure Alex into the open. She took out her cell phone, made a call, and asked someone to come out to the university. "You," she said, glaring at Debbie. "You're with that who dared to hit me when he burst into my dorm. No one gets to do that to me. No one bullies me. I'm untouchable. And yet he actually dared to hit me." She grabbed Debbie by the hair. "This is how he grabbed me the other day. And yet that treats you like something precious? Well, let's see how he feels once I'm finished with you." She slapped Debbie's face. Seeing Debbie try to get away, Madison felt extremely powerful. "Alex!" Debbie shouted. "Hey, that little calling for her." Madison laughed as she viciously tugged at Debbie's hair. "Come on, yell louder. I'll let you go if you scream. Do you think I'm afraid of that boyfriend of yours? Well, I'm not. To prove it, I'll beat him up in front of everyone." She slapped Debbie's face a few more times. Then she let Linda and Georgia hold Debbie, leaving Madison free to beat her. The commotion began to attract the attention of other students. Madison was well known at school. Everyone knew that she was connected to a gang, so they didn't dare to interfere. "Stupid," Madison taunted. "This is all because that loser of yours hit me." She turned to her friends. "Bring her over here." She watched George and Linda pull Debbie toward the lake, and then they pushed her face into the water. "You stink," Madison signaled what she wanted from Linda and Georgia, who sneered at Debbie. Both girls exerted force to push Debbie's head further into the water. After 10 seconds, they pulled her head back up. Before she could even take a breath of air, Madison slapped her. "Do it again," Madison ordered. Once again, the moment Debbie came out of the water, Madison struck her hard. Between the cold water and the stinging slaps, Debbie's face was red. Her entire body was drenched, and water was inside her ears and nose. She was suffering. The other students couldn't bear to watch any longer, but none of them stepped forward to stop it. Poor Debbie was pushed into the water again. Time passed. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Georgia and Linda began to pull Debbie out, but stopped when Madison yelled, "No, not yet." 40 seconds. 50 seconds. 60 seconds. Little bubbles appeared on the surface of the lake, and Debbie's hands frantically thrashed, sending water flying everywhere. "Keep going," Madison yelled, her eyes bright with excitement as she watched. She was enjoying every moment of this. 1 minute and 10 seconds. 1 minute and 20 seconds. Debbie stopped thrashing about and turned her head to look at the two girls holding her down. "Madison, we have to go," Georgia said. "She's really in trouble." "Keep going," Madison demanded. "Don't worry, if anything happens, I'll take the blame." She felt giddy with happiness. Debbie went still. "What happened? Is she dead?" Someone whispered. "If we didn't help her, does that make us accomplices?" came another whisper. "A normal person can hold their breath for 2 to 3 minutes," someone said. "She won't die. And if she does, then it's her fault for having weak lungs." As the crowd talked among themselves, a deafening roar came from nearby. "Let her go!" Alex threw away the burgers he was carrying and ran toward the lake, knocking over a few of the onlookers as he rushed into the water, dragged her out of the water. "Debbie, are you okay? Answer me." Alex stared at Debbie, anxiously waiting for her to speak. Her face was pale, and there were no signs of life. Alex couldn't stop shaking. It seemed as if she was already... gulped. She looked as if she was already dead. "Debbie!" Alex held his hand below her nose, checking to see if she was breathing. A chill traveled down his spine, and his heart skipped a few beats. He couldn't feel a single breath. Feeling numb, Alex carried her over to the grass, gently put her down, and began attempting to resuscitate her. He breathed air deep into her mouth and pressed against her chest. "Debbie, you can't leave me," he thought. "You haven't eaten the burger I bought for you, and I wanted to sit by the lake and watch the sunset with you. You haven't met my family yet. And I haven't taken you to Madison Park for dinner. He breathed for her again. Then again. His face was turning red, and he started sweating. Even his veins had started to bulge from the strain. He kept going for 10 minutes. But Debbie still wasn't breathing. She just lay there on the grass, not moving. He refused to stop. Tears flowed from his eyes, but he still kept trying. If she didn't wake up, he would simply continue until he died of exhaustion. You idiot, the little already dead. It's time to give up. Madison hadn't intended to kill Debbie, but there was nothing she could do about it now. Luckily, Debbie was just a nobody. Madison's family would pay someone a little money and she would avoid jail. It would all just go away. Alex stopped, finally realizing it was hopeless. He looked down at Debbie's face, a strange sense of calm settling over him. He gently put Debbie on the ground, stood up, and turned around to look at Madison. Then he began to walk toward her. What are you doing? Madison looked at him. His expression was completely devoid of emotion. She retreated step by step in fear. Don't come any closer, I'm warning you. If you touch me, you'll regret it. He continued to advance on her. No one noticed that Debbie, who was still lying on the grass, had moved one finger.
What drives a person to seek revenge, even if it means putting their own life at risk? Dive into the world of Alex Ambrose, a young man consumed by his desire for vengeance.
Stay away, don't you dare touch me. Madison was scared. After all, she had killed Alex's girlfriend. But she had a reputation to protect. If she ran away in front of so many witnesses, she wouldn't be able to show her face around here again. Alex walked up to her and slapped her hard. Blood dripped from her split lip. She wanted to hit him back. Keeping his grip, he started to move toward the lake. Alex yanked hard, and she stumbled, falling to the ground. Alex tossed her into the lake. Just as she'd had her friends do to Debbie, she wanted her to feel what Debbie had felt. "Oh, let go of me," Madison screamed in panic. "Help! Help me!" She screamed the next time she came up. She choked and coughed up a few mouthfuls of water. Maybe some of the bystanders would save her. But if any of them had that kind of courage, then Debbie wouldn't have died. They were too afraid to get involved, so they just watched quietly from the sidelines. Alex pushed Madison deeper into the water and held her there for longer and longer. Every time she came out of the water, she felt more and more desperate as she tried to drag precious air into her lungs. "Alex, I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I shouldn't have killed Debbie. Please let me go." She couldn't take any more of Alex's punishment. If he kept this up much longer, she might die. "What's the point of apologizing now?" he demanded, his heart heavy with grief. "Will it bring Debbie back? She's the one you should be apologizing to." "I'm sorry, Alex," she begged. "I'll pay you compensation. How much do you want? $500,000? $1 million? Just think about it. If anything happens to me, you'll be in trouble. It'll ruin your life." "Too late," he said. Madison felt a chill running down her spine. He had already made up his mind. With Debbie dead, then his life was no longer worth living. "I didn't take good care of you in this life, but I'll make it up to you in heaven. Wait for me, I'll be there soon." By this point, Madison had already been under the water for a minute. Air bubbles appeared on the surface, and her hands struck the water hard as she struggled. She fought much harder than Debbie's previous attempt. Suddenly, a roar sounded. The iron gates of the school were thrown open, and several cars drove in. They were being driven recklessly, and some of the students had to jump quickly out of the way to avoid being run over. The expensive-looking cars drove straight toward Ramsey Lake, attracting the students' attention. Many of them exclaimed in admiration before taking out their cell phones to take photos. The doors of all the cars opened almost at the same time. Between 3 and 5 people got out of each car. Although they were all individuals who wore different clothes, they had one thing in common. The right hand of each person displayed a dragon tattoo. Some of them rushed at the students and grabbed their phones. A few fierce men muscled their way through the crowd. They said, "We are the Azure Dragon Society. If you don't want any trouble, then keep your mouths shut. If anyone is tired of living, then continue taking photos." The onlookers were terrified. Not wanting to get into trouble, they didn't resist at all. "The Azure Dragon Society?" one of the students whispered. "They own the city, right?" "I heard there was a bloody battle between the gangsters in New York last month," another student answered, "and the Azure Dragon Society won. Now they control the New York underworld." "These people are savage and no one can touch them," someone said. When they began to attack, Alex had to let go of Madison to save himself. Madison's face broke the surface of the water, and she gulped down deep breaths of fresh air. 10 seconds later, she would have met the same fate as Debbie. When she had recovered a little, some of the men from the Azure Dragon Society helped her to the shore. The door of the opened, and a man in his 50s stepped out. His hair was white and long enough to reach the base of his neck. Even though none of the students had ever seen him before, they could tell that he held power within the Azure Dragon Society. He was their leader, Quentin Robbins. "Uncle Quentin!" Madison called, rushing toward him. Everyone was shocked again. No wonder Madison was so out of control. She was the niece of the head of the Azure Dragon Society. No one would dare to come after her. Madison hugged Quentin as she cried, "Uncle Quentin, if you would have come a little later, it would have been too late. That just tried to drown me. I need you to help me." "Don't cry, Madison." He lightly patted his niece's back. "If he dares to bully you in my city, then he must be tired of living. I'll deal with this for you." His eyes flashed with fury as he looked at Alex, who was still fighting with 3 men in the water. Alex wasn't weak, and his determination to get revenge for Debbie made him even stronger. One of the men fell into the water, and Alex didn't hesitate to attack. Even though they hit him, he didn't back down, managing to hold his own. Alex also suffered a few injuries, but he didn't care. He only had one thought. He made his way toward her. She was standing beside Quentin, but Alex ignored him. "Uncle Quentin, he's coming over. See that look in his eyes? He wants to kill me. Help me kill him first," Madison said fearfully. "Don't worry," Quentin reassured her. He tilted his head slightly to the side, and one of his men pulled out a black pistol, loaded it, and aimed right at Alex. When they saw the gun, some of the students stared in fear, while others took a step back. But Alex acted as if he hadn't seen it. He was focused on Madison as he continued to stalk her. Quentin was surprised. He raised his hand and pointed at the man with the gun. "You, shoot him." Bam! A gunshot rang out. "Ah!" Alex screamed and fell to the ground. He covered his right arm with his hand. Seeing Alex fall to the ground made Addison extremely happy, and her anger began to drain away. When they heard the gunshot, everyone was scared and people began to scream. Alex lay on the ground for only a few seconds before he got up. He held his bleeding arm as he continued to walk toward Madison. Quentin grew even more surprised. He scowled. This kid was challenging his authority. "If someone killed the love of your life, would you let them go?" Alex asked coldly. He hoped that Quentin would let him deal with Madison. But it wasn't going to be that easy. Quentin looked at Madison in confusion. She told him the truth of what happened, and he glanced at Debbie lying motionless on the grass. He sneered. "She's no one. You don't understand." Alex was still moving closer. Quentin was becoming annoyed. He raised his hand again and shouted angrily. The gunshot rang out again. "Oh!" Alex lurched to the right. He held his bleeding leg tightly and closed his eyes against the pain. Quentin nodded with satisfaction. "That's what happens when you don't listen to me," he thought. "Who do you think you are? You're a stupid kid who dares to challenge me. Well, this is where it gets you." Quentin's smile faded when he saw Alex starting to crawl toward him again, leaving a red trail of blood behind him. The surrounding people were also moved by Alex's bravery. For a moment, they forgot their fear and hoped that Alex would succeed in avenging his girlfriend. Their hearts filled with both pity and hope. "Do you really think you can kill me?" Madison said, coldly looking at Alex on the ground. She took the gun from one of the men, pointed it at Alex's head and said, "Since you love Debbie so much, why don't you join her?" She stepped back, and her finger began to squeeze the trigger.
What unexpected turn of events will save Alex from certain death at the hands of Madison? Will the arrival of a mysterious group be enough to tip the scales in Alex's favor?
Alex looked at Madison, who was pointing the gun at him. He felt depressed. "I'm useless," he thought. "I told Debbie I'd protect her for the rest of my life, and now I can't even avenge her." "Go to hell," Madison said with an evil grin. But just as she pulled the trigger, a bullet hit the pistol, knocking it from her hand. As a result, her shot missed Alex and hit the grass. Madison cradled her hand in shock. What's going on? Quentin wondered if it might have been a stray bullet from one of his men, but when he looked at them, they were looking around at each other. No one knew what had happened. Quentin was shocked. Even if his men had fired, how could they have possibly hit Madison's gun? Who was responsible? The sky became darker. Is it going to rain? Quentin wondered. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. When they saw what was happening, they stared in shock. 6 helicopters flew above them, carrying a huge black curtain. It was impossible to estimate the exact size of the curtain. "Is this a military exercise?" someone asked. "What's that curtain for?" Quentin rubbed his chin as he stared at the helicopters in the sky. They looked really cool. "I'm the boss of the New York underworld," he thought. "I should really buy myself a helicopter." The sound of the helicopters grew louder. They stopped above Quentin and then started to descend slowly, battering everyone with the wind they created. Some of the smaller students could barely stand. "Ah!" Students were afraid that one of them might land and injure them, so they scattered like rabbits. Dozens of men from the Azure Dragon Society stayed put. They were the bosses of the New York underworld, and they ran from no one. The 6 helicopters lowered the black curtain, blocking the sunlight, and landed around Quentin. The choppers all turned on their lights, and the Azure Dragon Society found themselves standing within a semi-enclosed space, unable to see what was happening. They were dumbfounded. What was going on? Quentin was panicking. He had only been the boss of a New York underworld for a month after going through a bloody battle. It wasn't common knowledge yet, so why would the military be looking for him? Several men jumped out of the helicopters and rushed toward the people from the Azure Dragon Society, who wanted to resist, but they knew they were no match for their opponents. Screams echoed in the darkness. Some of Quentin's men had their arms broken, some had their legs broken, and others had been knocked unconscious. In less than 2 minutes, every member of the Azure Dragon Society was lying on the ground. Only Quentin and Madison remained standing, completely stunned. The Azure Dragon Society was the strongest gang in New York, and yet they had been defeated so easily and so quickly. With all his men down, Quentin could clearly see the people who had defeated them. 10 men were left to guard the gang members, while the remaining 6 people rushed over to Alex. There were only 16 of them, but they had defeated 65 members of the Azure Dragon Society. The newcomers appeared to be in their 20s, and they were dressed in identical black clothes. They were all tall and sturdy. One man tore off his shirt and bandaged Alex's wounds. He helped him to sit on the ground and then kneeled beside him. "Mr. Ambrose, we're the 3rd squad of your family's security team. I'm sorry we're late." At least my family hasn't left me to die, Alex thought bitterly. His family was one of the most powerful in the world, and they would always vigorously protect their members. Each area where members of the Ambrose family lived had a security squad assigned to them. Squad 3 had only been alerted to Alex's dangerous situation a short time ago. When they had informed the Ambrose family, they'd been instructed not to interfere unless Alex's life was in danger. As a result, Squad 3 had arrived late. "It's fine," Alex said. "I don't blame you." All he could think about was... His gaze shot toward her without a shred of emotion. Faced with the consequences, she deeply regretted killing Debbie. She was so scared that she almost wet herself. She started to mumble, "I don't want to die, please don't kill me." "Mr. Ambrose, did she injure you?" asked the chief of Squad 3. Before they had left, the squad had been instructed to not allow Alex to do anything rash, so that they would need to have good reason for committing murder. "No, but she killed my beloved Debbie." Alex looked over at Debbie's corpse in grief. The chief frowned and signaled to one of his team members to check it out. "She's not dead," the man called as he squatted next to Debbie. "She's still breathing." "What?" Alex tried to rush to her, but 2 team members had already carried her over to him. He held his hand under her nose and felt a puff of air. His heart leaped in relief. "Quick, take her to the hospital," Alex instructed the team. He watched as they carried her onto one of the helicopters. Madison was even more relieved than Alex. When she heard that Debbie was alive, she was so happy that she started to cry. "What about her?" the squad chief asked, gesturing at Madison. Alex was so happy that he had almost forgotten about her. Madison's heart skipped a beat. Find a way to sever her relationship with her family. If Debbie didn't die, then Madison could be allowed to live. Madison gaped in shock. She couldn't live on the streets. Separated from her family, she wasn't sure she would survive. She would be dead within a week. But she knew that was all the mercy Alex would show her. Alex turned his gaze on Quentin. Despite living in the underworld for so many years, Quentin was actually shivering with fear when he looked at the young man. These people have caused enough trouble. Cripple the Azure Dragon Society and prevent them from controlling the underworld. If they try to rebuild, kill them all immediately, Alex said lightly. "Yes, sir." For them, destroying the entire city's underworld was easy. Quentin didn't even dare to breathe. He was just glad that no one had hit him. The security team helped Alex into one of the helicopters, and then they all slowly rose into the air. Fortunately, their luxury cars were still there, Quentin and his men wanting to hide in them and escape. But before they reached the cars, one of the helicopters came back down and banged into the vehicles. Each one of the luxury cars became nothing more than scrap metal. "My car," Quentin thought. Quentin and his men could only run toward the university gate. When they reached the street, they tried to hail a taxi. People took pictures of them. The photos of Quentin and the others were quickly posted on various social networking sites. Everyone wondered why so many men had been attacked at the same time. No taxi wanted to stop for them. In the end, they could only walk the streets of New York. Wherever they went, people gawked and took pictures. Meanwhile, in the helicopter, Alex had fainted due to his injuries. Squad 3 reported Alex's status and received an order from his family to take him directly to Harmony Island. As the sun began to set, the 6 helicopters streaked across the sky in formation, heading east at high speed.
Who are the women playing volleyball on the beach? And what brings them to Harmony Island? How will Alex interact with them? And will he find himself drawn into their lively and carefree world?
Alex's family owned more than 30 islands, and several of them had medical facilities. Squad 3 of the security team took Alex and Debbie to Harmony Island for treatment. They both had quite serious injuries, and Alex had been hit by 2 bullets. Although Debbie had managed to cling to life, she had been under the water for too long, resulting in injury to her brain. She hadn't regained consciousness. As soon as they arrived, the best doctor on the island operated on them. Alex had now been on the island for more than a week. Debbie was still in a coma, while Alex was only now being allowed out of bed. The first thing he did was visit Debbie. Alex was reassured when the doctor informed him that her condition was stable, and she should wake up within the next few days. Looking at Debbie's pale face, Alex smiled faintly. He walked out of the room leaning on a walking stick. After lying in bed for more than a week, he needed to get some air. Two of the nurses who took care of Debbie watched him leave. "Who was that?" Amy asked. "Oh, Leah, I told you we should take turns sitting with Debbie. If anyone hurts her, I don't want to be held responsible." They rushed into the ward to check on their patient, only calming down when they saw she was safe. "I told you that this island is secure," Leah said. "Besides, this is the girlfriend of Alex Ambrose. Anyone who dares to touch her is courting death." "I saw how scared you were just now." Amy glanced at Leah before shifting her gaze back to Debbie. "Mr. Ambrose's girlfriend is very pretty. I don't know what she's normally like, but she's so quiet now." "It doesn't matter. She's Alex Ambrose's girlfriend. It's not as though she'll have much to do with us," Leah pointed out. "And you've seen the other Ambrose men's girlfriends with their noses in the air," she shuddered. "And what about Justin Ambrose's group of girlfriends? They're all they know how to do is make themselves beautiful, stay in shape, and seduce Justin Ambrose. Just look at them. They don't look like respectable girls at all." Leah's tone was bitter. "That's true," Amy nodded. "But Leah, why do I get the impression you're jealous? Did you want to seduce him yourself?" "Why would I be jealous?" Seeing that Amy was poking fun at her, Leah couldn't help but laugh. "You know I don't want to seduce him, but do you?" The two nurses began to tease each other. Debbie's eyelids twitched as she slowly opened her eyes. She looked around at her surroundings. Bright walls, huge windows, a clean table with flowers, and a bowl of fruit. "Where am I?" she wondered. Having been in a coma for more than a week, she had no idea what had happened. Leah and Amy smiled at her, happy to see that she had finally woken up. When Debbie saw the two young nurses, she was shocked. This was a hospital, and it looked like a particularly expensive one. Not one she could afford. She wanted to get up and leave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, her body was still extremely weak. She only managed to lift herself a little before she fell back onto the bed. "Ma'am, lie still," Amy said in a worried tone. If they couldn't take care of Debbie properly, the family would fire them. "Please get the paperwork to discharge me," Debbie said, looking at them. "I want to leave the hospital." "You haven't fully recovered from your injuries yet," Leah told her. "You're not well enough to leave the hospital." "Even if I haven't recovered, I still have to leave," Debbie said. "I don't have the money to pay for treatment, and this hospital looks very expensive. I've been here for a few days, so the bill must already be really high. I can't work right now, but I'll pay what I owe as soon as I can." Leah and Amy stared at her, totally dumbfounded. "Ma'am, what are you talking about? You're the girlfriend of Mr. Ambrose, the eldest son, and this is his family's hospital. Why would you have to pay?" Amy asked, frowning in confusion. "Are you trying to give us a tip? We can't take that. If we get caught, we'd lose our jobs," she explained. "Mr. Ambrose," Debbie repeated. "Eldest son, family hospital." This time it was her turn to be confused. She looked at Amy and Leah and carefully asked, "Who is this Mr. Ambrose you're talking about?" "The eldest Ambrose son is Alex. Don't you remember your own boyfriend?" Leah asked. Debbie was stunned. She asked the two nurses to sit on the bed while she asked them questions. Only then did she learn that she was on an island owned by Alex's family, and they were genuinely rich. She remembered Madison and her friends holding her under the water, and when she'd been dying, she'd heard Alex shout. She realized Alex must have saved her, and she felt a burst of warmth in her heart. "Ma'am, may I ask who your family is?" Leah asked while Amy watched with interest. "You can just call me Debbie," she smiled. "I'm not anyone important. I'm just an ordinary girl from nowhere special." Amy and Leah were surprised. Most of the other Ambrose men brought home girlfriends who were famous models. After chatting with Debbie for a while, Leah and Amy realized that she didn't put on any airs at all. She spoke to them like equals, and they liked her. They got Debbie settled and left her to rest. "If Alex Ambrose likes a girl like Debbie, then do you think we have a chance?" Leah asked, secretly delighted. I think so, Amy answered. One look at Debbie and I know that Alex must be a very easygoing person, and I really want to meet him. But we only know his name and nothing else. We wouldn't know him if we saw him. As they were talking, they passed by Alex, who was wandering around the island with his walking stick. Who says I wouldn't recognize him? He wouldn't be able to hide his status. Leah lowered her voice a little and gestured at Alex. For instance, I know it can't possibly be that You're right, Amy agreed. Then they walked off, full of longing for the eldest Ambrose son. Alex was strolling around the island, leaning on his walking stick. He had been to this island when he was young, and now he was rediscovering the place. Mr. Ambrose! A middle-aged man spotted him and hurried over. When he reached him, he slightly bowed his head and said, I'm glad to see you up and about. I see your injuries are healing, and you look well. Seeing George Ambrose made Alex happy. George was from another, more distant branch of the Ambrose family. Unlike Alex, George was only responsible for some of the less important parts of the family business. The family had existed for hundreds, even thousands of years. There were many branches scattered over different areas. Even among commoners, there were many descendants of the Ambrose family. I'm still recuperating, Alex said, so I'll have to trouble you to take care of me a bit longer. Alex was very grateful to George. During the days he'd been on the island, George had taken really good care of him. Mr. Ambrose, it's no trouble at all, George assured him. The entire island belongs to the family, and I only did my duty. I'm happy to be of assistance. George lowered his head. Alex could only smile sadly. Ever since Alex was young, George had been nothing but polite and formal with him. Mr. Ambrose, your family has sent some news. I'll find you later to bring you up to date. George then revealed the most important piece of news. Grandpa's coming? Alex said excitedly. It had been 7 years since he had seen his beloved grandfather. Memories of him flashed through his mind, and a smile appeared on his face. I'll ask someone to help bathe you before your grandfather gets here, George said respectfully. Alex was still wearing the same clothes he had arrived in. George had already prepared clothes for him, but he hadn't worn them, insisting that his clothes were more comfortable. No need, Alex assured him with a smile. I'm fine like this. My grandfather knows what I'm like, and he won't mind. But, Mr. Ambrose, you're still... George wanted to persuade Alex to change, but it was too late. Alex was already leaving. Don't worry, George, Alex called. I'm just going to walk around some more. Once Grandpa arrives, I'll go and see him. They were both members of the Ambrose family, but Alex lived a carefree life. But in the future, perhaps his descendants would one day become commoners. George clenched his fists in frustration. Alex casually walked along the small path. The surrounding flowers bloomed with a rich purple and red color, and the lush green forest was beautiful. His mood lightened as he walked around, taking deep breaths of fresh air and letting it cleanse him inside. Over here, someone called. Pass it to me, came another voice. The faint sounds of laughing and talking could be heard from nearby. It sounded like people having fun. Alex followed the noise, walked past a few rows of coconut trees, and found himself standing on the beach. He stopped and looked around. There were about 10 gorgeous women volleyball. They were of various races. One woman missed the ball and landed face first on the ground. They pulled back, smiled wryly, and eventually did a high five instead. And Alex's eyes were about to pop out of his head. Slowly, a silly smile appeared on his face. He lowered himself down to the sand and settled in to...
What secrets will be uncovered on Harmony Island? What drama will unfold among Justin's 10 girlfriends? And how will Alex fit into the picture?
After playing volleyball for a while, the girls decided to take a break. On the beach next to the volleyball court, there were many sunbeds, umbrellas, and beach mats. Some of the girls relaxed on recliners, while others were lying on the mats. They were sipping drinks brought to them by the waiters. When did he call you? One of the girls asked her friends as she took a sip of juice. I got the call last night, and a helicopter brought me here today, her friend replied. Another girl joined in. I arrived the day before yesterday. I arrived yesterday, said another. The girls found out that they had all received an invitation from Justin Ambrose in the past 2 days and had been collected by helicopter and brought to that small island. It seems that we're all his girlfriends. I thought I was the only one, a beautiful young woman said crossly. How can that be? Think about it. He must only spend a few days a year with you. I know that I only get to see him for 2 days a year. Only 1 day for me, another girl said despondently. A smug girl said, I feel better. He spends 2.5 days with me. When everyone in the group had spoken, they had discovered that the most time anyone had spent with Justin was only 3 days a year. In total, he had spent less than 2 months with the girls. They wanted to know where he was the rest of the time. They all felt despondent about the situation. His family business is huge. Even if there were 1,000 of us, I would still want to be with him, the first girl said. Right, a few girls agreed. Me too, another said. Alex nodded in understanding. So, these beautiful girls were brought to the island by his younger brother, Justin. He had not seen his brother in 7 years, but he often thought about him. Alex smiled as he remembered the games they'd played together when they were young. Didn't Justin say that he would come visit us today? Do you know why he brought us all here? One of the young ladies looked at the others curiously. Another raised an eyebrow and said to the others, I wonder why he wants so many beautiful young women together with him in such a romantic setting. Meeting the others' shocked looks, she listlessly added, I was only joking. It seems that Justin's big brother is injured and it's quite serious. Justin wants him to stay on the island for a while and he wants us to come here to stay with him, one of the girls said in a serious voice. When the others heard this, their ears perked up. Justin's big brother? Their hearts fluttered. One said what they were all thinking. So, he's here to see his big brother. I wonder if his brother is as handsome as he is. If I can't have Justin to myself, then maybe I can have his brother. I really want to meet this big brother right now, said another thoughtfully. Another girl agreed. If Justin and his brother both fell for me, I think I'd go crazy with joy. I'd marry them both and spend 2 days with Justin and 2 days with his brother. Ahem. Seeing all these beautiful young ladies, for a moment, Alex forgot to breathe. After a few moments, he recovered a little. His cough attracted the girls' attention. They had been so busy chatting about the 2 young men that they had not noticed him arrive. They all shouted at the same time. Who are you? Get lost, one girl screamed. Another shouted, Look at how he's staring at us. Alex stayed where he was and didn't say anything. He was rendered speechless after being sprayed with insults by these beautiful girls. You just said how much you wanted to meet me, he thought. Alex decided not to explain anything to these girls. If they found out he was Justin's older brother, he would never get away from them. He shook his head and turned around, preparing to leave. At this moment, another girl walked past him. Her fragrance overwhelmed Alex. It was so beautiful, so aromatic, so pure. All the girls on the beach were gorgeous, but none of them compared to this girl's beauty. Alex's hands trembled and he dropped one of his crutches. The girl noticed Alex staring at her. She said, You don't know how lucky you are just to be able to look at me. She was so preoccupied with belittling Alex that she didn't notice the crutch on the ground. She tripped over it and quickly fell, shouting, Ugh! Alex managed to grab her hand and tried to stop her from falling. However, he had not fully recovered from his injuries and he didn't have enough strength. So they fell together. Before she could recover, Alex landed right on top of her. She cried out, Ouch! Feeling as if her bones were breaking. She slapped Alex's face and shook him off. She quickly stood up and straightened her hair. Do you know who I am? The girl pointed at Alex and screamed, I'm Justin Ambrose's girlfriend. You're in so much trouble. The other girls hurried over to see if they could help her. Listening to the girl's friends, Alex worked out that her name was Freya Morrison, and she was Justin's favorite girlfriend. The other girls seemed to follow her lead. Freya continued screaming at Alex. Her friends also started screaming at him. How dare you touch Freya, one shouted. All right, I'll call the island security team. I'm shocked at their negligence. We're all Justin Ambrose's girlfriends. They should be protecting us, Freya said forcefully, and the others agreed. Because they were girlfriends of Justin Ambrose, they were convinced that they were better than Alex, particularly as he was dressed like one of the island's workers. Freya thought, I'm Justin's favorite girlfriend, so I can easily own this island one day. You're just a poor worker. How dare you even look at me? Alex picked up his crutches and stared at this group of ferocious women. Originally, he had just wanted to leave quietly, and had even felt a little guilty toward Freya, but these girls hadn't even given him a chance to explain himself. They had said such cruel things to him. They hate me so much, he thought. Since you want to take me on, let's see what you're made of. Freya took out her phone and called the head of the island's security team. She looked at Alex with a sharp smile. But just as she was about to press call, a young man's voice sounded from behind them. Darlings, now both your men are here. The moment they heard the voice, the angered expressions on the girls' faces quickly turned to surprise. They turned their heads, and when they saw who had arrived, they exploded with joy. Justin! The girls screamed out in surprise, as if they had won the jackpot. They quickly forgot all about Alex as they rushed over to Justin. Alex was suddenly alone. He watched Justin, who was wearing shorts, a flowery shirt, and a huge pair of sunglasses, open his arms to welcome his 10 girlfriends. Slow down, Justin said as he was mobbed by the girls. Freya coughed a few times. When the other girls heard her, they all made way for her. At least Freya still has some etiquette. Look at all of you. You're acting like victims of a famine, Justin said as he looked at Freya, who was standing opposite him. Freya shyly walked up to Justin and raised her head to look at him coyly. She put her hands around his head and kissed him deeply. Justin, you're finally here. That just insulted me, Freya said with a sob and then looked toward Alex, who was not far away. She rested her hand on Justin's shoulder to support herself as she said, It's him. Just now, he put his hand on me. Justin, you have to teach him that he can't touch me. Another girl joined in. Yes, not only did he touch Freya, but he was also watching us. Justin, please help us, said another. Justin was also angry. He walked toward Alex angrily and said, Hey, you really have some guts. How dare you touch my girlfriend? You're... Alex! As he was staring at Alex, the realization came over him. He finally recognized this man. He was the older brother that had taken care of him when he was young.
What role did Ken Stokes play in Alex's life? And why is Alex so determined to help him? What will happen to Ken now that he's been fired?
I'm relieved that you finally recognize me. Alex patted Justin's shoulder. Big brother, is it really you? After hugging Alex for a long time, he finally stepped back. The beautiful young women were watching everything. One of them stammered to her friend. I heard something a moment ago. Did you hear him say big brother? Did you hear that? She turned to look at the others and saw that they were as shocked as she was. They had been waiting to have a good laugh at Alex's expense. They didn't dare to think about what they had just done. The thought of it was too alarming. As the two of them chatted about their childhoods, they walked over to Freya and the others. Freya lowered her head and said timidly, I'm sorry, Mr. Ambrose. I was blind. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sorry too, Mr. Ambrose, another girl said. We were wrong, a few of them cried out in unison. We're so sorry. All 10 girls apologized to Alex. At this moment, Justin remembered all the bad things that the girls had said about Alex. He pointed at the group and said sternly, Do you know who Alex is? Alex relaxed as he watched his brother defend him. When Justin became angry, the girls shuddered. Justin, we were wrong. Please forgive us this once, they cried. Alex looked at the group of girls and said with a smile, Nah, these women are all your girlfriends, and they're beautiful. They were just a little rude. The girls were thinking, The older brother Alex seems to know how to be compassionate. One by one, they stood up and walked away with reluctant hearts. How did you become so full of yourself? Oh, right, our family didn't make you go through the poverty test like me. Since Alex had left the family 7 years ago to take the poverty test, he had received no news or updates about his family members. I'm not Alex. I've got no desire to be the head of the family. In fact, when you become the boss in the future, you'll have to take care of me, Justin said to Alex with a cheeky smile. Alex sighed. His little brother hadn't changed at all. He only ever thought about himself. Hey bro, I heard from Uncle Frank that you brought your girlfriend here. Why don't you take me to see my future sister-in-law? Justin said while rubbing his hands. All right. Alex was about to go with Justin to find Debbie when George Ambrose walked over quickly. Alex and Justin, your grandfather's arrived. He's currently at the Seabreeze restaurant. He's waiting to see you, Alex. Grandpa's here. Alex was a little excited. He looked at Justin and said, let's go see Grandpa together. Justin smiled and said, Alex, you go yourself. It's you that Grandpa really wants to see. Besides, I get to see him all the time. All right, Debbie's in room 304. Go meet her, Alex replied, then followed George toward the Seabreeze restaurant. An elderly but animated and healthy-looking man sat at the wooden table. He was Lincoln Ambrose, the patriarch of the Ambrose family. Behind him stood a man wearing casual clothes. It was Ken Stokes, the boss of the East Coast division of the family business, who had hosted a banquet for Alex at the Plaza Hotel. Lincoln looked at Ken and thought, the Ken Stokes I know was always chattering merrily and was admired by everyone. However, this Ken Stokes is trembling with fear, with beads of sweat running down his forehead. What on earth is wrong with him? Alex was injured in the East Coast area. He was almost killed and I couldn't protect him. I'm ready to accept my punishment. The security department of the Ambrose family was managed independently from the rest of the business. Therefore, even though Ken was the manager of the East Coast division, he had no control over the security team. Ken had only heard about Alex's injuries when Alex was sent to recover on Harmony Island. Many people in the family didn't understand this and held Ken responsible for Alex's injuries. When he had planned this visit to the island, Lincoln had decided to take the opportunity to see Alex and resolve the issues with Ken. Lincoln reassured Ken, well, it doesn't have much to do with you. After all, it's impossible for you to keep an eye on Alex all the time. However, I can see why the family's upset. The other members of the family might not understand it. Even if they do. Lincoln stopped talking abruptly, suddenly feeling that he had already said too much. As the head of the Ambrose family, only Lincoln could understand how difficult it was to be in charge of such a large clan. But when they thought someone had messed up, everything could quickly fall apart. Even though he knew that the incident wasn't Ken's fault, he also knew that he would have to act in order to maintain order within the family. I agree that someone must take responsibility for this incident. I'm sorry, Ken, but I have to remove you from your position as the head of the East Coast Division. You no longer work for the Ambrose family. Lincoln was very disappointed. He liked and respected Ken, but he felt he had no choice. What? Cried out Ken. When Lincoln announced the punishment, he was dumbfounded. He had never expected the punishment to be this severe. He had worked for the Ambrose family for 30 years. The family and his work were his whole life. Sir, please reconsider. Firing me is worse than killing me. I'm sorry. It is done, Lincoln said in disappointment. He knew that there was nothing he could do. He got up with difficulty and nodded to Lincoln, then turned around and prepared to leave. Around this time, Alex, using his crutches, slowly walked up to the Seabreeze restaurant. He was surprised to see Ken walking out, looking inconsolable. When he entered the restaurant, Alex saw that his grandfather's dour expression and guessed that Ken had been punished because of what had happened to him. Alex walked over to Lincoln and stood in front of him, leaning on his crutches. Alex, exclaimed Lincoln when he saw him. He had not seen him for 7 years and became emotional. He stood up and wanted to take a good look at his grandson. Grandpa, please take back Mr. Stokes' punishment. Oh. Lincoln was impressed with Alex. After not seeing him for 7 years, the first thing he did was to plead for one of his subordinates. Aren't you going to ask what punishment I gave him? He asked his grandson. No matter what the penalty is, even if it's only $10, please take it back. It's not Mr. Stokes' fault. Alex was determined to defend Ken Stokes.
Why did Alex decide to keep his identity hidden from the guests at the banquet? What is the relationship between Graham and Alex?
Are you sure? You almost died. Don't you hold Ken responsible at all? Lincoln asked Alex. Alex looked at his grandfather seriously in the eye and said, Not at all. He shook his head and continued, Even if I died, it wouldn't have been Mr. Stokes' fault. His responsibility is to help the Ambrose family manage the business and take care of the East Coast direct affairs, not my safety. Punishing Mr. Stokes isn't only unfair, it'll also unsettle and demotivate everyone who works for us. This surprised Lincoln, and he started to wonder if he was getting too old to run his family business empire. His brain worked more slowly now, and he hadn't thought everything through clearly. He feared that he no longer had the vigor that had defined his youth. Lincoln laughed and replied, Good for you. I agree with you, and I'll do as you say. I won't punish Ken Stokes. Thank you, Grandpa. Ken had been fetched back to the room. It took him a few seconds for him to digest the news and react. He kept bowing to Lincoln and thanking him. Then he turned to Alex and said, Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for your compassion. After resolving the issue with Ken, Lincoln let him leave. Then he turned to Alex and said, You're a good boy, and you've grown so tall already. You only came up to my chest when you left home. Lincoln helped Alex up with a gratified expression. Alex's feelings were mixed. He started to speak. Grandpa. He looked carefully at his grandfather. He noticed that his grandfather had become old. The wrinkles on his face had increased, and his gaze was no longer as sharp as when he was young. Hearing the words grandfather, the elderly man felt joy in his heart. He sat with Alex at the table and asked him about his injuries and all about the last 7 years. He said to Alex, Now that you've passed the poverty test, you don't need to study at Preston University anymore. I'll send you to an internationally renowned school to study. Tell me, Harvard, Oxford, which university do you want to attend? Alex shook his head with a faint smile. He replied, I feel that Preston University is pretty good. I'd like to continue studying there. His grandfather disagreed. At Preston? Child, you must understand that in the future, you will inherit unimaginable wealth. Your other brothers are already studying in the most outstanding universities abroad. Do you really want to stay in a place as small as Preston University? Who said that a first-rate university abroad would suit me better than Preston? At least, I don't think it would. Alex shrugged. Lincoln was satisfied with Alex's answer. He responded, Good, you have guts. You are indeed my grandson. The grandfather and grandson talked for more than an hour at the Seabreeze restaurant before Alex took the initiative to leave. He knew that Lincoln came to see him, but also that his grandfather managed the affairs of the whole family and must be extremely busy. Lincoln stood in front of the window, looking at the scenery in the distance with a self-satisfied smile. You seem to be especially pleased with Alex. Do you like him more than your other grandsons? The man behind Lincoln asked him respectfully. Lincoln was slightly startled. He had never thought about it before. He slowly looked at the man. Brandon, you've been by my side for almost 10 years. What do you think of Alex? Alex is modest and loves his girlfriend. He doesn't pursue power or fame. This is the difference between him and your other grandsons. It's also his advantage. Brandon bowed slightly as he spoke. Advantage? Lincoln asked with a faint smile. Forgive me, I said too much. Brandon said with humility. Oh, you don't have to be afraid. There's nothing you can't say to me. Lincoln's gaze turned outside the window again. I'm very aware that my body's getting old. In the next few years, I will definitely have to choose my successor as the head of the Ambrose family. Alex does indeed have an advantage in terms of personality and quality, but there's still time. No one can really predict what will happen in the future. Leaving the Seabreeze restaurant, Alex had headed straight for Debbie's room. By this time, Justin and Debbie had gotten to know each other quite well. The cheerful Justin was impressed with her. Seeing that Debbie had finally woken up, Alex was pleased. Alex, where did you find such a delightful girlfriend? Tell me so I can go find one too. Justin grinned as he asked Alex, while Debbie smiled shyly. If not for the fact that Debbie was already Alex's girlfriend, Justin would have done his best to woo Debbie for himself. It took another 20 days for Alex and Debbie's injuries to heal completely. Justin had only been with them on the island for a week, but he had started feeling restless and lonely and decided he needed to leave the island and get back to his life of boozing, partying, and women. That day, Alex and Debbie also agreed that they should leave the island and return to school. In a private helicopter, they flew across the sea toward New York. "This month has been like a dream. I didn't expect your family to be so big," Debbie said as she looked at the clouds outside the window. "I told you before, you just didn't believe me," Alex said with a smile. After recuperating on the island for the last month, Debbie's face had filled out. She was still wearing her beige dress and looked even more beautiful. At 6 in the evening, the helicopter slowly landed on the helipad. Alex pulled Debbie to the roadside and looked for a taxi to take them back to school. Just as he was flagging one down, his phone rang. The screen told him that it was Wayne Wing, one of Sam Woodsworth's assistants from the Berkeley Hotel. "Mr. Ambrose, I heard that you've left Harmony Island. Have you arrived in New York yet?" "Yes, we just landed," Alex replied. Wayne continued. "Good. The East Coast Division Manager of Foreign Trade, Graham Sterling, wants to treat you to dinner at the Plaza Hotel tonight. Last time when Mr. Stokes invited you to dinner, he was away visiting the United Kingdom and was unable to join you. He only returned yesterday." Alex thought for a few seconds. "All right, then I'll go this time. But I don't really want to have to attend these social events right now." In the future, if he wanted to join his family's management team, this kind of social interaction would be necessary. But he wasn't at that level yet. He didn't want to waste too much time on this kind of thing. "Excellent. I'll inform him now and I'll send you his phone number." After ending the call, Alex pulled Debbie into a taxi and they headed straight for the Plaza Hotel. The taxi pulled up in front of the hotel and Alex and Debbie climbed out. They noticed quite a few luxury cars pulling up at the entrance. The doorman, wearing formal attire, was opening the door for the owners of the vehicles. Alex listened to a few of the customers as they passed and learned that they had all been invited by Graham too. Alex frowned slightly. He had assumed that the meal would just be for him, Debbie, and Graham. He hadn't expected so many people to be invited. He stepped to the side and called Graham, asking him to come out and speak with him immediately. A few seconds later, a middle-aged man in a smart suit came out of the hotel. When he saw Alex, he walked over with a smile. He had seen Alex's photo before and recognized him without any difficulty. "Alex, you've come. Come in, please. I've arranged everything. And I've invited some of New York's elite business owners to welcome you here," Graham said with a shy smile. He even smiled at Debbie, who was beside Alex. That made Debbie nervous. Graham had never come into direct contact with anyone from the Ambrose family, so he felt very honored that Alex had accepted his invitation. He thought that Alex would surely appreciate the opportunity to meet so many important people. His only concern was that Alex would think that he had not invited enough people to be worth his time, so he was still a bit anxious. As they were speaking, a gentleman who had climbed out of a luxury car saw Graham and walked over. "It's a great honor as always that you've invited me to your party. Who's this?" The young man had seen Graham bow toward Alex and greet him with a respectful smile. He could not figure out who this young man was. "This is..." Graham cleared his throat, but just as he was about to introduce them, Alex beat him to it. "Pleased to meet you, I'm Adam Childs." Alex extended his hand toward the man. If he had been well known in New York, hiding his identity would have been impossible. "Adam Childs?" The man looked puzzled. He had never heard of such a person. "What do you do?" "Never mind that, the guests are all here. You should hurry up and join everyone." Graham had been carefully observing the situation. When it was clear that Alex didn't want to reveal his real name, he had immediately stepped in to help him. The man left with an apologetic smile. "Alex, did I invite too many people this time?" Graham asked. "What do you think?" Alex asked with a smile. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you wanted to keep a low profile. I'll get rid of them all at once." As he spoke, Graham started to head back into the restaurant to ask all the guests to leave. "Come back," Alex called for Graham to stop. He said kindly, "Since everyone's already arrived, let them stay. Just please don't invite everyone next time." Yes, of course. Thank you, Alex, Graham said as he led Alex and Debbie into the hotel. Graham had booked a 3,000-square-foot banquet hall, and it was full of guests. Alex let Graham entertain the others as he and Debbie walked to the bar. Alex and Debbie were casually eating at the bar when they overheard one of the guests saying, "I heard that Mr. Sterling called so many of us here as a welcome feast for an important young gentleman. Who do you think is worthy of the boss's attention?" "It can't be Walter Flint, right?" his companion replied. "Impossible. The news said that Flint is currently on holiday in Hawaii," the first man answered. "Whoever it is, it'll be someone like Flint. I'm sure we'll get a chance to take a good look at him later. We should take the opportunity to meet important people like him." Debbie secretly smiled at Alex. "Do you still want to hide your identity? It sounds like this Graham has already told everyone about you." Alex could only grimace. While everyone was chatting, Graham walked to the front of the stage and said into the microphone, "All right, please take a seat, everyone." The guests began to look for places at the table to sit. Unfortunately, there were no fixed seating arrangements because the banquet had been organized in such haste. Alex pulled Debbie with him, and they sat at the table farthest from the stage. A couple sat down beside them. The young lady who sat beside Alex said sweetly, "Hi, my name is Kathy Fairweather. Nice to meet you." When she saw Alex's face, Kathy stopped speaking abruptly. "It's you. And that peasant is with you." Kathy had attended the banquet with Billy Wilde. She knew that most of the people there were wealthy, and she was very keen to meet them. She wondered to herself, how on earth did this pair of paupers get themselves invited to the banquet?
What is the significance of the diamond necklace, and why did Kathy want it so badly? What is Kathy's motivation for revealing Alex's true identity?
When he saw Kathy, Alex was speechless. Why did he bump into her everywhere he went? He and Debbie tried to change seats, but they found that all the other seats were already occupied. They had no choice but to sit with Kathy. Debbie gently grabbed Alex's arm. She was still a little afraid of Kathy, so Alex comforted her in a soft voice. Seeing the two of them being so intimate, Kathy felt even more annoyed. In the back of her mind, she thought that even though she dumped Alex, he would still put her first. He shouldn't be all over this other woman in front of her. "How did you two get in? This isn't the sort of place that would let you in," Kathy asked aggressively. "You think you can steal Mr. Morgan's money and then get yourself invited to a banquet? You think it's that easy?" Billy asked sarcastically. "I think you're planning something else. Alex, what rich guy are you targeting now?" Alex tried to ignore these two bullies. He didn't even look at them and only whispered to Debbie. But Kathy continued. "Oh, these losers snuck in. I'm going to tell everyone. I'll tell the host about it right now and have them kicked out." She was about to stand up, but Billy stopped her. They had only managed to get invited because of Kathy's connections, so he didn't want attention drawn to him. When the others at the table heard Kathy shouting at Alex and Debbie, they asked her why she hated them so much. She replied, "You're too funny. Why shouldn't I bear a grudge with someone like him? Don't we deserve to get our own back on him?" Kathy proudly explained to the others. "I just can't bear to see them acting like nothing's happened. Together they stole $350,000 from our school's intern fund. You must agree that these two people are complete." When the others heard what she said, they started pointing fingers at Alex and Debbie. "Kathy, you've got to watch your tongue and stop spreading these lies about us." Alex had had enough. How could he enjoy his meal with Kathy making these accusations again? Seeing that she was finally getting a reaction out of Alex, Kathy's anger grew. She shouted at him, "Wow, you stole $350,000 of the school's money. Why don't you just admit it? Why do you think you're better than everyone else? Everyone should know that you're a shameless thief who stole $350,000 and gave the money to..." "You shameless Alex. I was just talking about you. What's wrong with you? You want to hit me now, don't you? If you're not too scared, why don't you just do it?" Kathy arrogantly turned her face to Alex. She had guessed that he wouldn't want to hit her in front of everyone. "You..." Alex wanted to slap her face, Debbie stopped him. Forget it. Just ignore her. Alex nodded and suppressed his anger. You can't even stand up to a girl. What a coward, Kathy said, sneering at Alex. If I was you, I'd be trying to think of a way to pay back that money. You two are such losers. Kathy rolled her eyes and punched Alex viciously in the chest. Alex couldn't take it anymore. He slapped. Billy quickly helped her up. Debbie held Alex's arms to prevent him from doing anything else to her. Kathy started shouting that she was ready to fight with Alex when Graham's voice came across the sound system. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I've asked you all here at such short notice to let you know. When Kathy heard Graham's words, she stopped shouting and calmed down. It would be disrespectful to Graham if she continued making trouble while he was speaking. Graham continued to speak and everyone listened politely. They understood Graham's position in the East Coast Division and felt honored to be invited. However, when one of the managers realized that Graham was at the end of his speech and hadn't mentioned the young heir, he asked him, Isn't this a special banquet for a young heir of the Ambrose family? I think we're all very keen to meet that important young man. How could they not want to meet that noble young gentleman that Graham valued so much? Other guests agreed. That's right. Yes, do introduce young Mr. Ambrose, another called out. We all want to meet the young man. Graham, who was on the stage, looked at Alex. His gaze was warm and encouraging. Alex just gave him a meaningful glance. Graham announced, I understand that everyone wants to meet Mr. Ambrose, and I will pass that message to him. Unfortunately, the young man is busy right now. He did just come to the banquet hall, and he was extremely pleased to see how many people were here, but he already had to leave. In the silence when Graham had finished speaking, everyone heard a groaning voice from one of the tables. Stupid, Kathy grumbled. Billy was trying to placate her. Kathy cursed Alex as her anger grew. Perhaps she couldn't blame everything on Alex, but she felt if he had not been there, somehow she might have met the mysterious Ambrose heir. Alex was like a jinx. All right, in order to make up for everyone's disappointment, we're going to have a lottery. Anyone here could win, Graham announced loudly. He explained the rules to everyone. Each guest had their seat number. Shortly, the screen would display some random numbers, and whoever's number appeared would win the prize. With Graham being a senior manager in the company, the rewards were, of course, expensive and desirable. The least valuable rewards were an phone and an emerald bracelet worth $50,000. The best prize was a diamond necklace worth $200,000. Graham had his assistant show everyone the necklace. It was sparkling and indescribably beautiful. The eyes of everyone present, especially the women, lit up. Although she knew that her chances were slim, Kathy still had a glimmer of hope in her heart that she would win this diamond necklace. 15 minutes later, all the prizes except the diamond necklace had been given out. Many of the guests had won prizes, including Kathy, who had won an emerald bracelet. However, she wasn't satisfied with her prize. Although the bracelet was pretty, it was worthless in comparison to the diamond necklace that she had her heart set on. However, when she looked at Alex and Debbie, who hadn't won anything at all, she felt much better. She fiddled with the emerald bracelet on her arm and nonchalantly said, This bracelet is really beautiful. I'm sure people will be jealous. Debbie looked at Alex. He smiled and comforted her. It's all right. That bracelet looks like it belongs to an old spinster. You? Kathy choked on Alex's words. She looked at the bracelet and thought that it did look like an old lady's bracelet. She took it off. On the screen, they were already drawing the final prize. The numbers were rolling onto the screen. 7. The first number came out. It was table number 7, Alex's table. All the guests at this table became excited, especially Kathy. If she could get this diamond necklace, she would be ecstatic. It was worth over $200,000. Plus, then she would have won 2 prizes, and when she came on stage, she would hint to her boss that she was a lucky charm who could help the company make a fortune. Just as Kathy's imagination was running away with her, the second number appeared. 1. At the same time, the third number began to scroll. There were 12 people at each table, and the second number was 1, which meant that the winner would either be 10, 11, or 12. Alex was 10, Billy was 11, Kathy was 12. Kathy's excitement increased. She felt the shining necklace beckoning to her, and she saw that all eyes were focused on the three of them. "It's me, it's me, it's me," Kathy muttered under her breath, as if she was trying to control the numbers with her mind. But on the outside, she pretended not to care, because she knew that everyone was looking at her. The numbers started to slow down and Kathy's hands were entwined. The numbers were getting slower and slower. 2. It was Kathy. She stood up excitedly. Billy also stood up. The two of them embraced. After hugging for a while, Kathy wanted to say a few polite words to the other guests. But then her eyes were pulled to the big screen again. To her horror, the number didn't stop there, but it continued to scroll. The 2 disappeared and a 0 appeared. Kathy's heart plunged. "It's Alex's fault," she thought. "Why did the numbers change again?" One more time, Kathy urged under her breath. If the number jumped to 1, Billy would win the prize. "He'll give the diamond necklace to me," Kathy thought joyfully. However, the numbers on the screen did not scroll. They clearly showed 710, which was Alex's seat number. Kathy's heart turned to stone. Alex had won the prize. She looked at Alex slowly with a gaze full of hatred. She wanted to kill him. Billy pulled Kathy to her seat. He felt ashamed of her behavior. Of course, Alex was now the center of attention. Graham smiled happily and said to Alex, "This young man has all the luck. Please come on stage to receive your prize now." The others looked at Alex with envy. Alex guessed that Graham was probably responsible, but he could only smile. Since he had already won the prize, so be it. He had not given Debbie anything really impressive yet, and this diamond necklace was stunning. "Come on, let's go over." Alex held Debbie's hand, and they walked toward the stage. Kathy's eyes were filled with a cold gleam. She should be the one walking toward the stage. She was sure that the two of them had somehow changed the numbers and stolen their diamond necklace. "Nice to meet you, young man. Congratulations." Graham shook Alex's hand and smiled. Alex also noticed a hint of flattery in his eyes. Graham prepared to give Alex the diamond necklace. "Mr. Sterling, you haven't introduced this handsome guy to us yet," a confident woman said from her seat in a loud voice. The other guests also started to call out to him. Said Graham, knowing that Alex wanted to keep a low profile. He glanced at Alex, who was looking at him calmly, waiting to see what he would do. Graham had an idea and announced to the guests, "This is Adam Childs. Adam is young and has certainly had good luck today." Luckily, Graham remembered the name that Alex had used when he had arrived. When he saw Alex relax, he felt relieved. Graham was about to give Alex the diamond necklace. "Adam Childs? You liar!" Kathy shouted as she stood up and looked at him with a cold glare. "Don't believe him. He's not Adam Childs. His name is Alex, and he's a stinking loser from Preston University. And he's the thief who stole $350,000 from the school."
How will Kathy react when she finds out that Billy is the suspected thief? What will happen to Kathy and Billy now that they have been arrested?
When Kathy heard Graham address Alex as Adam Childs, she snickered to herself. Adam Childs, she thought. What nonsense. But wait a moment, why is that name so familiar? Oh right, it was that rich student from Minnie's live broadcast room. Kathy finally understood that Alex had used a fake identity to get himself invited to the banquet. It's just that he never expected Billy and me to be here, and he never thought he'd be lucky enough to win a diamond necklace. Alex, you're so pleased with yourself for winning the prize, but just wait. I'm going to expose you right now and get you put in jail. As expected, Kathy's shout caused a huge uproar. Alex sighed. Now Kathy's caused such a ruckus, it's going to be even harder to keep under radar. Everyone's going to want to know who I am, and as part of the Ambrose family, It'll be really difficult to keep my identity hidden, he thought. For now, I'll just try to deny it. Miss, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Alex took the microphone and said blandly to Kathy, Hey, you're still pretending to be rich, aren't you? In front of so many decent people? Tell them who you really are, Kathy answered aggressively. Mr. Sterling already announced who I am. Since it seems that you didn't understand, I'll tell you again. I'm Adam Childs. If you really are Adam Childs, then tell me, which company are you from? Kathy wanted to expose Alex. I don't need to answer your questions. I have business here worth $350,000 with this company. Alex's expression became increasingly serious. Huh, $350,000? You've got the audacity to talk about $350,000 when that's the amount you stole from the school. Are you completely... Kathy assumed that Alex had blurted that out thoughtlessly in a moment of desperation. Then it's easy to find out the truth. Let Mr. Sterling tell us if you really have a $350,000 business here, or are you just spouting nonsense to all of us? I'll soon prove that you're up to no good. The others also focused their attention on Graham. Deep down, they were also suspicious of Alex. Mr. Childs and I do have a business worth $350,000. In fact, within the next 2 years, we'll have another business worth $5 million, Graham said to the guests at the tables. How is this possible? The smile on Kathy's face froze. At that moment, her mind was in turmoil. Why is Mr. Sterling colluding with Alex? Where did Alex get the $350,000 from? It can't be true. Everything must be a scam. It's Alex's doing. No, please don't believe Alex. I have his photo on my phone. He stole $350,000 last month. I have pictures to prove everything. Look. Kathy opened her cell phone and showed Alex's photo around to the other guests. However, the others didn't even bother to look at the photos. They trusted Graham and had taken his word as truth. They had no more doubts. Is this girl mad? One of the guests asked. A well-dressed gentleman said, She thought she had won the necklace just now. I think this girl is just jealous. His wife agreed. You're right. What a girl. The necklace is expensive, but it's not acceptable to maliciously hurt someone else to get your way. Young lady, please stop messing around and sit down. Graham frowned and said to Kathy. Kathy was determined to make her point, but she was pulled down by Billy. Graham was already angry, and it would be extremely humiliating if he had them physically thrown out by security. Kathy sat down and used her phone to call 911. Let the police find the truth. Graham took the necklace from his assistant and handed it over to Alex respectfully. Thank you, Alex said calmly, supporting the necklace with his hands. He turned to Debbie and said, We've been dating for a bit now, but I've never given